We've been, no one's, we're not saying anything that you intentionally did anything. Just tell us where you went.
What's happening, people? I hope you're all well. In this video, I'm going to talk about a tactic that the police use in the interrogation room, and that tactic is called the accident tactic. Now, the police know that when the stakes are high and suspects are looking at big boy charges, I'm not talking about petty theft, I'm talking about murder, I'm talking about rape, I'm talking about armed robbery. The police know that suspects are unlikely to be forthcoming with information. And this is because obviously the suspect is looking at, perhaps 20 years in prison, 30 years in prison, life in prison, or even the death penalty. So detectives know that suspects are not going to be forthcoming with information most of the time. So they have to use a variety of techniques to try and extract a confession out of the suspect. And one of the ways that the police do this is by lowering the admission of guilt. Mostly in charges revolving around someone dying, the police will ask the suspect on some occasions, was it an accident? And I'm going to show some examples in this video. At the end of this video, you're going to see some more examples where the police use this tactic. And it's simply because by asking if it's an accident, they're lowering the admission of guilt. You see, if the police get the suspect to admit to a lesser charge, the suspect may feel more comfortable admitting to that. It's almost like a way out, because manslaughter charges obviously carry a lot lesser sentence than murder charges. But here's the thing, the detectives are not going to stop there. The detectives are not going to stop there. So the suspect may be thinking, oh, well, it's just, if they admit to the manslaughter charge, then that's pretty much going to be where it stops. No, the detective wants the suspect to start off admitting to a lesser charge, and then they're going to build on more damnatory statements later on in the interrogation. So essentially, what the detective has done is got one foot in the door. He's got the suspect to admit to the crime, or partially admit to the crime. And often what will happen in some cases is that detectives will invite suspects in as witnesses as opposed to being under arrest. And this has its pros and it has its cons. One of the pros is the suspect may feel more confident going into the police station after being asked into the station, not arrested in handcuffs and, put in a police car, but they arrive in their own car, they arrive, they think they're arriving of their own accord, and, they've been invited in as a witness, and they're told in the interrogation room that they're not under arrest and they can leave at any time. Some of you may have heard this before. Now, the pros of that is obvious. It gives the suspect more confidence, and it means that they're going to be more willing to go into the police station and answer questions and maybe more forthcoming with questions. However, a con of this is that they're not under the same caution as if they were under arrest in a lot of cases, if they're coming in as a witness. And as I just previously alluded to, sometimes you will hear the suspect being told that they can leave at any time. Now, the detective wants to stop that as soon as possible. So say in an instance where officially the person in the interrogation room is a witness, but unofficially they're the prime suspect. So by getting the suspect to admit that it was an accident, or to say it was an accident, once they've done that, that's still admitting to the act, and that person is no longer free to go. So they've gone from being a witness and they're free to go at any time. They say it was an accident, now they're under arrest and they can't leave. So that's another reason that the police do this. The police also do this because now they know they've got the right person. So before, when they were saying it wasn't, some suspects, they may have been shelling up and they may have not been talking at all. So the detective subsequently asks them, was it an accident? The suspect admits that it was an accident or says it was an accident. Now the detective knows they have the right person. They haven't got to look for the person anymore. They know that they have the right person. Another reason that detectives will use this tactic is because what a lot of people don't seem to understand is in the interrogation room, it's not English, it's legalese. And a lot of words have different definitions with regards to legalese as opposed to just walking around and talking to people on the street. So, for example, if you say, for example, that you were there with regards to, I don't know, a party, that just means, you were at the party. And that's just a very loose term, But if you say that, say a murder happened and you say you were there, you've placed yourself at the scene with regards to legalese. You have placed yourself at the scene. And that means you could be now an accessory or you could now be a suspect. So words have different meanings with regards to legal terms. And when you're talking to the police and when you're in the interrogation room, when you're talking to police or when you're in court, words have different meanings. So when someone says, if the detective can get the person to say that they were there and it was an accident, they've partially admitted to the crime and they place themselves at the scene. And these are key factors that the prosecution will use when they're in court. So as you see, there are many, many reasons why the accident tactic is used. Now, suspects will find it easier to admit to a lesser charge. And then once they've admitted to the lesser charge, the detective can then start applying the pressure to try and get them to admit to the more serious charges. But once they've got that foot in the door, they can then start applying the pressure and presenting other evidence that contradicts. You see, what the detectives will do a lot of the time is they will act like they don't know anything. They will play ignorance in the interrogation room. They will invite the suspect in and they will act like they don't know anything, and they will start off with a very open question which allows for pretext. But the police actually know a lot more than the detective realizes. The police know a lot more than the suspect realizes. So they will act like they don't know anything. They will ask the suspect a very open question which allows for freedom of answers and flexibility instead of a direct question like, what date did the crime occur? Instead, they will say, just let me know, tell me what you know about the crime. That's a very open question. And then that allows for pretext. It allows for information gathering. And then once they've collected enough information, they can compare it to the evidence that they have, and they can look for holes in the suspect's story. But first, they got to play stupid. So what they'll do in a lot of cases is they will say, was it an accident? Now, the police have the evidence that, they're going to present in such a fashion that they're going to present to the prosecution. The prosecution is going to present to the jury, arguing that it's not an accident and it was deliberate. But if they ask the suspect, was it an accident? The suspect now has a new line or a new route to go down in the interrogation room. So then the detective is going to say something along the lines of sometimes, tell me about the accident, what happened? The suspect's now, if the suspect is guilty of murder but is now claiming it was an accident and they're on the spot, they're often going to give a false reporting of events of what happened. The detective is going to sit there pretending to listen, acting maybe even on the sort of acting maybe perhaps a little bit sympathetic to them, leaning towards sympathy towards the suspect, and is going to just let the suspect talk about the apparent accident. And then they're going to point towards evidence and say, well, this evidence suggests that it wasn't an accident. And then the suspect is going to, his story or her story may fall apart because they probably made it up on the spot under pressure in the interrogation room. And then the detective is going to show that evidence and try and pressure the suspect into admitting to the full charges. So those are some reasons why the detectives use the accident tactic. One, to lower the admission of guilt, so basically making the suspect more comfortable admitting to lesser charges. Two, the suspect has now placed himself at the scene. Three, the suspect is no longer free to go if they've been invited in as a witness, but were a suspect all along. And also it means they can build on more damnatory statements later on. Also, they know they have the right person. So now I'm going to show you some examples of where detectives use the accident tactic. Watch those examples, and then I'll have a little talk about it after.
If you've had a problem with this guy for a while, and this was an accident, do you realize that you're looking at some very, very serious charges here?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay. Well, you are. I can tell you that much.
Okay.
And if it was an accident, it was an accident, and that's all it was.
Okay, so what happened?
I didn't do anything to her or the kids.
Was it an accident?
I didn't do anything.
Was it an accident?
There was no accident. I don't know if there was an accident in the house. I wasn't there for it.
It's a big deal if it's an accident, because we can work with that, Chris.
No,
And I think that's maybe what happened.
I did not cause an accident. I didn't.
You're a young man. You got your whole life ahead of you. All right? But I need to know what happened. Did he make you that angry? Or was it just an accident? I was fading. You was fading.
As you can see, in a lot of instances, the detectives will use the accident tactic to lower the admission of guilt. And it can be effective. It's not a guarantee, but it can be quite effective. Now, if you have any other reasons why the police use the accident tactic, make sure you put it in the comment section below. I hope you gain value from this video. And if you have any other tactics that the police use in the interrogation room that you'd like me to cover, then put that in the comment section below. And that's it for now. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit the notification bell so you get a notification when I make a new video. And I'll see you on the next video.